Okay. I just say good afternoon to everyone. My name is Polly Dieter. I'm the chair of the Henrico Dems. Welcome to Richmond High School and the CD1 Democratic Candidate Forum. I wish to thank all of our candidates for being here. I'm so looking forward to hearing from all of them. I want to thank all of the members of the executive board for the Henrico Dems who helped us plan all of this. It was a team effort, and I thank you all so much. Also, I've been told that we have a few first-time voters in attendance, and it really makes my heart so happy. Voting is our most important thing to do as a citizen, and thank you for being engaged. So now it gives me great pleasure to introduce our moderator for today's forum. Dr. Jennifer Pribble is a professor at political science and global studies at the University of Richmond. Her research focuses on issues of Latin American political economy, social policy, and democracy. She's a published author, and her research has been published in peer-reviewed journals. Her political commentary has been featured in the New York Times, the Washington Post, NPR, CNN, and elsewhere. Jenny recently began work on a new project that investigates the rise of the new right parties in Argentina, Brazil, Chile, and Spain. Jenny received a PhD from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill in 2008. Welcome, Dr. Jenny Pribble.
Can everyone hear me okay? Okay. Good afternoon. I want to welcome you all to this candidate forum for Virginia's first congressional district. I am very grateful to the Henrico Democrats for hosting the event and for inviting me to be the moderator. As I was introduced, I'm a professor at the University of Richmond, and I love hearing from candidates, so I too am really excited to get to know them today. The goal for today is to give everyone here in attendance a clear sense of who these candidates are and where they stand on a handful of issues that we know are important to the first district voters. We hope that this information will help you as you cast your vote in the August 4th primary or earlier if you choose to early vote. That has already begun. We also hope that this forum will get everyone in this room excited to get involved with the campaign for the candidate who ultimately wins the nomination. I'll begin today by providing you with a brief outline of what the rules are for this forum, and then I'll give a short introduction of each of our 7 candidates. They've provided me with a 2-sentence introduction to give you a sense of who they are. The questions for the forum were drawn up by a team of individuals from the Henrico Democrats. The committee sought to cover a range of topics that voters have raised that we have heard about in meetings and town halls throughout the district. Today, you will hear each of the candidates respond to 5 questions and then deliver a closing statement. Each of the candidates will have 90 seconds to answer the question, and if they run over time, I will intervene to gently remind them that they have run out of time. The candidates drew numbers to decide their position on the stage. The candidate in seat 1, Jason Knapp, will be the first to answer question 1, followed by the candidate in seat 2, and so forth and so on. And question 2 will start with candidate 2, and we'll move down the line. All the candidates were given the questions in advance, and they were encouraged to provide clear and concrete answers about what they would do if they were elected to Congress. So now I want to begin by introducing our candidates in the order in which they are seated. Jason Knapp is a retired Navy commander and combat pilot who served 21 years, including a tour as an executive officer at NATO headquarters in Brussels. He lives in the Northern Neck, and he is running to lower the cost of living and bring accountability to Washington. Shannon Taylor has been the Henrico County Commonwealth's attorney since 2011. when she became the first woman and first Democrat in nearly 40 years to hold the seat. She has a record of taking on tough fights, and she's running for Congress to prosecute the case against Rob Whitman and make Congress serve the people. Tim Sawinski is a policy advocate and community organizer with 12 years of experience fighting for education, economic fairness, and environmental justice. He is running as a reformist Democrat committed to fighting big money in politics, making healthcare a right, and building an economy that works for everyone. Salam Bati is the son of immigrants and a public interest attorney who previously worked at Virginia Poverty Law Center. He successfully led legislative efforts to expand access to cash, food assistance, and school meals in Virginia, repealing racist laws and improving program efficiency for millions. Mel Tull is an Army veteran, small business owner, and attorney who lives in Henrico County. He brings more than 30 years of experience in law, business, and nonprofit leadership, and is running to lower costs, expand economic opportunity, and bring practical, accountable leadership to Washington. Elizabeth Dempsey Beggs is one of the first women to serve in combat arms in the U.S. Army. She now serves as a foster parent and an advocate to the working class. Erica Kopp is unapologetically progressive grassroots Democrat and healthcare attorney. A near lifelong Henrico County resident, she's running on a platform of access and accountability through action. Let us welcome our candidates. Okay, we'll now move to our first question. So candidates. Residents of Virginia's 1st Congressional District regularly express frustration with the high cost of living. For example, the median sale price of a home in Henrico County increased from just under $300,000 in 2022 to roughly $415,000 in May of this year. Rents have also grown faster than wages. Add to this the high cost of childcare, healthcare, groceries, transportation, and education, and one can understand why many voters feel they cannot get by. How do you think Congress and the federal government can address the challenge of affordability? What would you do if elected to Congress to deal with this problem? And we will start with Jason now.
Thank you. I get it. Check.
The best way to win.
You may have to turn it on, Jason.
Best laid plans. That's the doctor said. Okay, so thank you for that. This is a personal question to me because this is my life story. I grew up on Medicaid. I grew up on food stamps. You know, my mother used to make a game on grocery day, making $2 cards, $3 cards when we went to the store. We moved from apartment to apartment, not because we wanted to, but because we were priced out of where we were. This is a real issue, and that is still happening today. And so when it comes to affordability, we have to remember, it's not just here in Henrico where people can't afford homes. It is out where we have a home, in Northumberland, in Gloucester, in Lancaster. People can't afford to stay where they grew up. People can't afford to live where they want to and where they work or where they wish they could work. And it is a function of Congress not doing what it can do. We would immediately, and I would look to immediately bring back the credits and the subsidies on healthcare. People are going broke because of healthcare. We're the richest country in the world, and it's the only country that I've lived in which we don't take care of our people. We're the richest country, and we don't take care of our people, whether I lived in Europe or Japan or in the Middle East. This is unacceptable. So we need to also affect our tax code. Let's be clear. Our tax code is our values written down. It is what our country says it values. And right now, it is showing that it does not value working families and that it rewards the ultra rich. I want to bring that back. I want the working families like my own, to be the ones who are successful in this country. Thank you.
Good afternoon. As your Commonwealth attorney for the last 15 years, it's been my job to make sure that I'm protecting you from harm. But let's be honest, there is a harm that's coming out of Washington, D.C. And that is what is happening for why costs are going up. We talk about the healthcare, we talk about the housing, we're talking about gases. And the reality is that corruption is what is allowing women to self-enrich themselves. That's what's happening to all the politicians in Washington, D.C. And that's why we need to remove that corruption so that people who are elected to serve are actually finding these solutions. That's why it was important to me to come out with my anti-corruption agenda, to talk about stock trading, to cut off the Congress to lobbying firm pipeline, and to impose term limits, just to name a few. You know, being out there in the first, all over the first, we know that people are frustrated with outside influence. And I want to make sure that everyone knows, as your elected prosecutor, I have conducted myself without fear or favor for anything that I've done. So I want to make sure you all know here today, I've taken no corporate PAC money in this race, nor will I for the entirety of this race, and I won't take it while I'm serving you in Congress. That's important to me because it's important to you to make sure it's clear. And if there's any wavering about who I represent or what I stand for, I wish you could go to the thousands of families and victims I've gotten justice for.
Thank you for this question, and thank you all for being here. Thank you, Paulie and Henrico Democrats, for putting this on. We love just being in front of you all. It's hard to do in a district this big. So the question is about affordability at the key and what we can do in Congress to do about it, right? Affordability comes down to two things. Either people make more money or the prices go down. Right now, neither party is doing enough to do either of those things. We can talk about raising the minimum wage, but ultimately, as long as we have a system that rewards monopolies and a tax system that rewards corporate greed, the price of everything is going to continue to go up. That's why wages have not kept up with the prices of homes, which 30% of them are being bought by investment companies in Wall Street right now. We need to make sure that we actually give people things again from the government. A healthcare plan would actually go a really long way in doing that. A Medicare style plan wouldn't just make sure we can save more money just when we need to get care, but it would also allow small businesses and businesses to not have to pay premiums, and they could put that back into wages. They could put that back into innovation. That's number one. Number two, we need a new tax plan. Look, our tax system is completely upside down. Like Jason was saying, we tax hard work so much. We tax corporate greed and greedy billionaires and now trillionaires so little. We need to flip the script. We need to have a tax system that incentivizes good behavior and punishes bad behavior. So if you want to reinvest in your workers, you want to reinvest in salaries, then you get the tax break. But if you want to price gouge, you want to lock people out of basic necessities, you want to become a monopoly, you get taxed the hell out of. That's to make sure that we can make sure that we have an economy that is fair and rooted in dignity.
When I worked at the Virginia Poverty Law Center, we would host work groups to figure out what legislation we should push forward. We met with a group called Circles, RVA, and about a dozen folks who were struggling through poverty were asked the question, what should we work on? And I had these ideations that we could do some wonky things, but every single one of them said, you need to do something about benefit cliffs, because we're working hard at our jobs. We want to get the raises we've earned, but if we take this raise, we actually lose more in benefits than we would get in income. So we need to do something about the benefits cliffs, turn them into benefit slopes, and update the federal poverty level. Because right now, for a family of four, the poverty level is $33,000. That's outdated. And you cannot have a safety net that's set up at the floor, especially at a time when so many people are losing their jobs. We need a modernized, consolidated safety net to help the folks of today. We also need to retake the power of the tariff, because President Trump has weaponized this, and as a result, our food costs have increased. Farmers' potash costs have increased. The fertilizers hold up in the Strait of Hormuz because of an illegal war on Iran. And we keep hearing that there's never enough money to teach our kids or to build houses, schools, and hospitals here. But there's plenty of money always to kill kids, to bomb hospitals, to bomb schools, and to bomb hospitals over there in Gaza, in Lebanon, in Iran. Why are we allowing our taxes to fund a genocide and an ethnic cleansing when we cannot even afford our groceries here?
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. I'm Mel Tall. Thank you all for coming out. This is a really important issue. I hear about it every day when I am out knocking on doors and talking to people. And in this district, we cannot make this election all about prosecuting Donald Trump. We need to present people with a plan for making their lives better and improving their economic situation. So the first thing I would do if I got into office would be to end the war in Iran, for real this time, end the tariffs, and stop the mass deportation of workers that we need to grow this economy. All of those things are increasing the cost of inputs into things like farming and home building, the cost of lumber and steel and seeds and fertilizer, all of which flows through to us and increases our costs for groceries and homes. In addition to that, I would propose the Family Affordability Review Act. Every act that Congress passes, they would have to get an independent review of the affordability of that act on regular Americans like all of us. You know, the affordability of our housing, groceries, healthcare, utilities, everything. Look, I'm a business person. When a business makes a decision, they look at the financial impact on the business and the shareholders. Congress should have to do the same thing and evaluate the affordability of the actions they take on all Americans. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. Can you all hear me? Okay. Good afternoon. Thank you all so much for being here. I'm Elizabeth Dempsey Beggs. Here's the thing. I live the affordability crisis every single day. My husband's a firefighter. We're foster parents raising 4 young kids. I know we can't afford groceries. I know we can't afford housing. I know we can't afford childcare. And right now it feels like no one is doing anything to address that. That's the same story I hear throughout the entirety of the 1st District and throughout the entirety of the nation. So when it comes to addressing it, the top 2 priorities on my platform are accountability and affordability. And that's because those go hand in hand. The reason that the minimum wage has not been raised to match where it should be, last time it was raised to $7.25 an hour, that would be $26 an hour today. The reason that has not happened is because we allow corporations like Walmart and like McDonald's to exploit our workforce, to attack our working class, and we pay the cost of it. So we have to have tax reform so that everyday W-2 workers are not bearing the brunt for tax by allowing corporations to have large breaks and also allowing them to buy political seats. We have to have campaign finance reform to address the root cause of the issue, have tax reform, create affordable housing, raise the minimum wage, and make education affordable and accessible on top of universal health care. Nobody should live in fear that they will go bankrupt if they get into a car crash on the way home. That is not a way that you can live in a country that celebrates freedom. No one is asking for handouts. They're asking to not feel like they are going crazy, being told to work harder and stop buying lattes when the cost of housing has skyrocketed. Thank you.
If we don't address the root cause of the affordability crisis, we are only going to treat its symptoms. And those symptoms are going to continue to fester and get worse. So we have seen a president who calls affordability a fake word that has been created by the Democrats. So we need to rein in a president who has acted lawlessly and in violation of the law and the Constitution. We need to restrict, if not altogether remove, his ability to put tariffs on the people. It is a tax without representation. We need to end the war in Iran so that gas prices are able to go back to some modicum of normal, and so that farmers can actually get access to fertilizer to plant crops. We also need to abolish ICE and divert their funding to social services, because it should not be the case that people live in fear of walking outside of their homes and being abducted just by the color of their skin or their accent. Additionally, we need to ensure that bills like the bipartisan housing bill that is currently being held up by this president, who doesn't believe in affordability, is able to get through Congress so that we the people can afford to live in this society.
Thank you very much to our candidates. We'll move on to question 2. Data centers have gained a lot of attention in the 1st Congressional District, in part because of their extraordinary consumption of water and energy. A New York Times report on Microsoft data centers, for example, found that the company expected its 100 data centers to consume 28 billion, yes, billion liters of water by the year 2030. Additionally, voters who live near data centers complain of air and noise pollution, and some rural residents worry that the construction of these centers will fundamentally alter the character of their communities. What role does Congress have in regulating or addressing these challenges? What would you do about the data center problem if elected to Congress?
Well, certainly we've had a lot of conversations about data centers here in the Commonwealth because we have a lot of data centers here in the Commonwealth. And let's make sure we all know, no consumer in Virginia should be paying one dime more for energy or water because of these data centers, period. And certainly for the data centers that exist, they must be held accountable for the impacts they're putting on the environment, and they do need to be paying for their electricity and their water usage. And for the localities that do not have a data center, you, the citizens of that locality, should have a voice. And if you don't want them, there should not be one there. Look, there's no regulations right now for these data centers. And you aren't gonna be able to count on Rob Whitman to do it because, oh, by the way, he's got stock in the companies that are building the data centers. So I can promise you here again tonight as we move forward, as your congressional representative, I will always put communities first when we're talking about regulating data centers.
I hate data centers. I've been working on this issue for 3 years because I'm the communications director and community organizer for the Sierra Club Virginia chapter. And if you care about affordability and you care about justice, then you gotta hate data centers because they're mutually exclusive. When I was working in Chesapeake, it was the first time I was able to fight back with the community, and that community stopped the data center proposal in rural Virginia. And I remember going to the farmer's market right across the street from where it would have been built, and I asked them, what do you think about this? And they said, I don't like it, but we don't have a lot of money, and they do, so there's nothing we can do about it. This isn't just about our environment, it's about our democracy. It's whose voices matter, no matter how much money that they have. So what am I in favor for? What do I think the federal government needs to do? We need a damn moratorium on data centers. We need to make sure that we press pause because this industry claims it's the smartest in the world, and yet they haven't proven it by making sure that they can build these things with the trade-off of making people sick, or raising our electric bills, or stealing all of our water, or any of the extra, all of the long list of things that are going wrong with data centers right now. And you know what's really holding us up? Because this isn't a common sense issue. This isn't a logic issue. It's a money issue. It is. Big Tech is spending $226,000 a day to lobby the federal government for two things. One, take away states' ability to do any regulation over AI development whatsoever. And two, they want a bailout. They want a bailout when the bubble pops. We're talking about affordability right now. The crisis is already really bad. It's going to be even worse if we don't do those things. So I commit to never giving them a bailout, and I commit to holding them accountable every chance I get.
A few years ago, we had something known as the spotted lanternfly infestation. Y'all remember that? Right? And we had to be the ones who were killing them because there was no natural predator. Now, data centers are the latest infestation in Virginia. But here's the thing, they have a natural predator, and it's all of us. And this is one of the unifying things across party lines. Nobody wants data centers in their backyards. And what Congress should be doing is what its job is, which is in the Constitution, provide for the general welfare, not corporate welfare. So what I would do in Congress is sign on to Representative Ocasio-Cortez's bill, which calls for a moratorium on data centers, and also putting in the guardrails to make sure that the environmental regulations are in place, to make sure it is not harming our environment, to make sure that there are systems in place so that it's not drawing water, especially from endangered resources like the Rappahannock River, where they are expecting millions of gallons of water to be taken from on a daily basis. So these are all things that are top of mind, but also we have to keep in mind the job losses that are going to be coming. If these AI data centers are built, within a few years, it's not about the jobs they create when it's just to build the thing. It's about 5 years from now, 3 years from now, the tens of thousands of jobs are going to be taken from all of us. And then what will we be left with when we have nothing but a tattered safety net before us, which Republicans like Rob Whitman have made happen?
So like many of you that are here today, I live right here in Henrico County, so this issue is impacting me directly right now. As you all know, our Board of Supervisors rejected a data center proposal not long ago, and within a matter of months, 3 new data center projects showed up just on the other side of the Henrico County line in Hanover and Goochland. I live a mile from one of those proposals. I have no say in that data center because it's in the next county over. So this is why this is a federal issue and we need federal guidelines on these data centers. So some of the guidelines I would make sure that we include is transparency. No more of these NDAs. They need to disclose how much energy they're going to use and how much water they're going to use. I would require them to pay for all of their electricity needs, including any upgrades to the electrical grid that they require. I would require closed loop systems for the water to preserve the water, and require setbacks and buffers and soundproofing to protect the local community. In addition to that, once we have those national standards, the locality should be the ones making the decision whether they want that data center in their backyard or not, and they should receive the tax benefits from those data centers so that those tax benefits go to making new roads and new schools and new libraries right there in their communities. Thanks.
I live in rural communities. I live in Hanover, and for too long, we have treated our rural communities like they have to be sacrificial lambs. That their options are to either accept these mega data centers, be ripe for the picking for billion-dollar companies, or be left behind economically. I refuse to accept that that is the only choice they have. So I support a federal moratorium on data centers until they meet the highest of standards that we set. I don't think that's enough though, because we leave rural communities in position that if there is not teeth behind that, are they going to take billion-dollar companies to court? Are they going to get help and fight that? They don't have the resources. So we also have to expand that to be able to provide the resources and not just leave these communities to fight on their own, not just to leave neighbors rallying together to protect their community. I was trained for a very long time to fight for my country, and that fight just looks a little different now because they tried to put one in behind my house. We were able to stop that, but everybody should have that opportunity and they shouldn't be alone in doing it. Furthermore, the communities that have been damaged, big tech needs to come in and take care of them. When your well has gone dry, when your children are getting sick, those companies have a responsibility to take care of that. When you've lost the equity in your home, your major resources in life, that needs to be taken care of. So we have to have the moratorium, but we have to have it have teeth, and we have to take it one step farther. We also have to invest in our rural communities so they're not ripe for the picking to come in and say, well, here, they're going to provide jobs. You need the money. You have to have money for your schools, and let big tech have these false promises. It's our job to create infrastructure.
Public health, environmental protection, and the ability to access water shouldn't depend on locality lines. And for that reason, we need a federal moratorium to put a pause on the construction of new data centers in our communities. And while we're doing that, we need to fund research to determine exactly what the effects are in the long term of data centers, not just on the communities that they are around, but also on people's health. We're seeing reports come out that these data centers are polluting the air such that people are getting sick. We can't have that. So in addition to that, I want to establish an independent agency made up of experts so that we can look at what exactly these data centers are doing to us, to the environment, and to our country as a whole. In addition to that, we need regulations to come out of this agency or out of Congress directly. We need regulations that demonstrate how far back the data center can be from a school so that we don't have one right up next to a school. We need them to be a certain distance away from people's homes and our communities so that they're not interfering with the land that we live on. And let's tax the data centers at the federal level.
So after I retired from the Navy, I actually got into the clean energy space, working to bring battery and solar manufacturing, working economic development, working with power companies to figure out how, these large scale manufacturers who are large ratepayers were going to work, whether it was in Arizona, New York, Washington State, or even here in Virginia. So let's talk about what a moratorium does and does not do. It does not fix a problem. It delays a problem. It's not a plan. It's not a plan. And we know this because Ireland set up a moratorium for 4 years on data centers, and they got nothing. They got nothing done, and all of the money went to the Scandinavian countries. They eventually came up with a plan, and it was satisfied for Ireland. And Europe has these studies. We don't have to guess. We already know. We just have to do the research, and that's what Congress should be doing. So in Congress, I would demand that, again, like others, that no data center gets off free. They pay for all generation and all future transmission. They have required renewable generation on site. They are required to have battery or other forms of energy storage on site. No diesel gen sets. The setbacks already exist. We already know what the RFI, the radio frequency or electromagnetic interference levels are. We know what these numbers are. A moratorium is just a press release. It's not a plan. And so when I get there, I will help with a plan that satisfies the entire country, and we don't just leave our county commissioners sitting there trying to guess as to what the best solution is. We do the work.
This next question will start with Tim Sawinski. The United States spends far more on healthcare per capita than any other advanced industrialized democracy. Yet tens of millions of people remain uninsured or underinsured. Medical debt is a leading contributor to personal bankruptcy, and prescription drug costs can be astronomical. With reductions in Medicaid funding, analysts expect these problems to worsen, hitting children and rural communities particularly hard. What is your plan to address the United States healthcare crisis, and what would you do in Congress?
Thank you. Oh, no. Here you go. Okay. Oh, no. The healthcare companies cut the feed. No?
What a depressing question. So this one's personal for me. My brother, he was born without the right valve of his heart, and the health insurance company said, we're not going to pay for it. It's a pre-existing condition. In other words, it's his fault. And my mom, who is a teacher now, was a lawyer back then, she told them, we're going to sue you. So they caved and ended up providing health insurance coverage. But even with coverage, the medical bills piled up so much that the choice became pay the medical debt, pay the mortgage. And my family lost their house. Yeah. Yep, that is the system designed as it is set up right now. That's the system working. It's unacceptable, and it's reached the boiling point thing. I know some folks will say it's not popular to talk about single-payer healthcare system, but that's the only viable option to make sure that that plan, that impact doesn't happen to people like my family. My plan involves a responsible but swift way to move towards a single-payer healthcare system. I think there's a lot of things we can be doing to address, but number one thing is, if we're not willing to break up these healthcare monopolies right now, then we're not going to have any affordability. We also need an immediate public option because the healthcare companies are for-profit. We need something that is accessible to all Americans, that can be non-for-profit. That will lower prices and increase quality. But long-term, when we're talking about Medicare for all, we can't just talk about just healthcare or disease care, as it's actually more appropriately. We need to make sure we have preventative care, which is why my plan that I call One Care, Full Care, includes hearing, includes dental, and it includes vision. Because we can be saved, we're leaving a lot of money. Our current healthcare plan right now costs us $1 trillion. If we switch to a single-payer healthcare system, we could save over $500 billion a year. That's where we need to go. It's responsible, but it's also just the right thing to do because we deserve better than what we have now. And that's what we have to be fighting for. We cannot run away from it.
I studied for a year abroad in Scotland. I can't say it normally, I really can't. And while I was there, I had to go see a doctor. When I'm checking out, I pull out my wallet and I ask, how much? And they said, we don't charge you for healthcare here. And I was a capitalist teenager at the time, and I'm like, you're leaving billions on the table. But then I did the research and I learned that, during World War II, the leaders were doing a study on what they could do afterwards. And when they were out of it and the Nazis had destroyed England and the UK, they say, hey, we've been elected at a revolutionary time to do revolutionary things. And the National Health Service was born. And similarly, right now, our nation has been destroyed by the Nazis of our time. And so we are going to be voting, not just in November, but in August, for revolutionary vision at a revolutionary time. And that revolutionary vision includes Medicare for all. We all have a story where we couldn't see a doctor because of a copay being too high, or we couldn't get that surgery we needed, or because we couldn't get preventative care in the beginning for that cavity, we had to get a root canal months later. And things get more pricier the longer we wait, so we need to get it to the root cause. That's why we need to have a twofold path for Medicare for all. We need immigration reform that allows more doctors and nurses to come in to meet today's need and to incentivize them to work in underserved areas with green cards, and also to have more med schools open and increase the caps and subsidize their education so that we can meet the needs for tomorrow.
So this issue is personal to my family. My wife, Anne-Marie, who's here with us, and I think many of you know, she is a pediatrician. And right here in this district, every day she cares for children whose families are on Medicaid. And she will tell you about families who are driving over an hour to come see her because her practice is one of the few practices in the district that accept Medicaid. So I firmly believe that that every American deserves affordable, dependable medical care. And there's a couple things we can do here. First, we need to restore the cuts that were made to Medicaid and Medicare and the Affordable Care Act subsidies with the big beautiful bill last year. Secondly, we need to increase the use of telemedicine. Telemedicine doesn't work for everything, but there are a lot of visits like refills and follow-up visits that you can do through telemedicine. And if that saves you an hour each way, that's some pretty significant savings. Now, it doesn't escape me that if you live in a rural area, you can't do telemedicine without high-speed broadband. So we're going to make sure we finish the job bringing high-speed broadband to rural communities. And then the final thing is, Salam was mentioning, we have a shortage of doctors and nurses in this country, and that's going to lead to long wait times and long drives to see a doctor. So we need to, increase the number of slots that are available at med schools, and provide tax incentives and loan relief to encourage those doctors to serve in underserved areas like rural areas, and to serve in practice areas that we don't have enough, like pediatricians and general practice doctors and mental health facilities and rural healthcare providers. Thank you.
I think you'll notice a common theme. None of us are going to be able to solve healthcare in 90 seconds. We're going to try our best, though. We also don't need a report to tell us that our healthcare system is failing. It's a large reason I got into politics as someone who never planned to. My son, in foster care, had a surgery canceled. He's partially deaf, fully deaf in 1 year, losing hearing in the other. Solely because he was in foster care, we had no other options. Led to advocacy, led to politics. It's also important to mention, though, we have rural hospitals closing left and right. You can have the best healthcare in the world, and that doesn't mean anything if you can't actually go see a provider. So we talk about universal health care, something that we know is a basic human right. We are the only developed country that doesn't have it. We should not still be continuing to have this argument. The argument is, how do we actually implement it in the way that makes sense, that protects rural hospitals, that allows people to actually get care without long wait times. My solution to that, as someone who served in the military, come from a family that served in the military, is using TRICARE as the model. Many people don't know TRICARE is not just when you're active duty, but you can have it when you leave the military. There's options if you're in the National Guard, you live in rural communities. We know how to do this, and there's a way we can do it well. It's also much better for small businesses. It's much better for the economy. It is not a handout. It's something that actually allows the community to thrive. We do have to invest in education to get providers out here, though. We need more doctors. We need all-encompassing care. We need postpartum care. We're also the only country that doesn't accept the 4th trimester. And we're surprised that we have a failing birth rate.
Healthcare advocacy is a through line in my life. Professionally, I'm a healthcare attorney. Personally, I'm a caregiver to a disabled combat veteran. This is something that I live and breathe. So yes, we do need a comprehensive, single-payer, universal healthcare system. but we're not gonna get it yet. And part of that is because anything that we do in Congress as it relates to implementing universal health care will eventually end up at the Supreme Court. And with this Supreme Court that we have seen in the last week that has been denying access to basic rights, we're not gonna get it. So we need ethics reform at the Supreme Court. We need to have a way of holding these justices accountable so that when eventually we have a plan that goes and passes Congress, gets signed into law, that it is not taken down by the Supreme Court. In the meantime, there are things that we can do to make access to healthcare better than what it is currently. We can fund Medicaid to where it was before the big BS bill. We can also remove the limitations to federal student loans so that practitioners, in particular physicians, can get through medical school. We need to incentivize them to go and practice in rural healthcare spaces and rural hospitals so that they can have access to quality providers, so that we don't have to have a hospital that doesn't have a doctor.
So like many of the questions, this one also is very personal to me because I'm alive today and I stand here today because of Medicaid, because of a safety net that protected my mother and myself at a very difficult time in her life. That safety net has been cut left and right since then. It wasn't that strong to begin with. We weren't living high on the hog, but at least we were surviving. And today, people are not. They're not surviving. And let's really get to the crux of it. I'll talk about the healthcare issue, but the true reason we do not have a universal healthcare program is because we allow, even in our own party, people to take huge sums of money from insurance and from pharma. That's why we don't have universal healthcare. It's because money is the system. Money is the system. They're taking money and it's a business expense. They are expensing it out at your expense, and that's unacceptable. Now, when we come to a universal healthcare system, I absolutely 100% believe in it. I am part of the single-payer healthcare system because I am on TRICARE. It works, and it has worked in every other country that I have lived in. And yet, once again, richest country in the world. Why? Because insurance companies want to take $1 trillion a year out of our system for themselves. That's why you get denied, so that they can keep their profits. I will work to, one, try and get the money out of the politics, and two, bring universal health care to this country because life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness includes being healthy.
So I once again. Thank you, Jason.
No.
Okay. All right. I know. I think maybe we're running out of juice up here or something like that. All right, look, I'm not gonna sound like a broken record because you are hearing what is the problem, which is a broken healthcare system. And everything we're telling you today is that, yes, it needs to be fixed. But until we get the corruption out of DC, and until we remove politicians like Rob Whitman, who is putting his self-interest and the billionaire self-interest when he votes for a budget bill that cuts Medicaid, cuts your services, but puts money in his pocket, we're never gonna get it done. So let's make sure we understand that what we need to do is get Rob Whitman and all the other cronies out of this corrupt DC politics. That means end Citizen United. That means campaign finance reform. It's all true. It's all interrelated. And as soon as we understand what the root of the problem is and understand that the corruption is what's killing this country, the better off we're gonna be. It's about making sure we've got affordable and quality healthcare for all Virginians, for all Americans. And it's about making sure that we're being smarter about our workforce development because, oh, by the way, that nurses shortage just didn't happen last year. It's been happening for years, and my mother's a nurse, so I understand the perils of that. So we will fix it. We're gonna roll up our sleeves, and we're gonna make sure that we get quality healthcare for all in this great United States.
Thank you. Our fourth question we'll start off with Salam Pati. The issue of artificial intelligence is on the mind of many students and young workers. While the technology may provide benefits in some sectors, economists warn that it could severely disrupt the labor market. Surveys show that workers are concerned about job security. And while economists differ in their predictions about who specifically will be affected by mass layoffs, they agree that the U.S. social safety net is not ready to address the kinds of shocks that AI could bring. What is your plan to address the challenges that AI poses to the labor market and to protect workers during this time of deep technological transformation?
One of our canvassers met a lady named Stephanie. She's in her 50s, and she's facing a crisis. She works in the billing department, and her job is about to be cut due to AI. Some of you may be in the same position as well. And she's very upset, rightfully so. She's not at an age where she can retire, and she needs a paycheck, so she can't lose her job. There's also no safety net, really, to catch her. After that $1 trillion that was taken from SNAP, Medicaid, and Medicare, the very programs that would help her put food on the table and go see a doctor during this time where she's going to be in between jobs. So what we need is some sort of regulation on AI that really protects people's jobs. And one of Representative Ocasio-Cortez's line items in her bill for a moratorium on the data centers is figuring out the AI jobs protection model. We also need to modernize that safety net. I just talked about this earlier, but it's outdated, it's clunky, it's very inefficient. And we have made things that have helped make the safety net a lot more efficient. And I can't wait to get into DC and modernize that safety net. Senator Sanders has a bill that talks about a profit sharing model from AI with the populace, creating some sort of universal basic income perhaps. So that's something worth exploring as well if this is going to be the future. We also have to keep it out of the classrooms because so often we will bring in technology that's just not ready for the children, and the children are not ready for that technology. So we can't think that this is going to plug some sort of hole that we need to be plugging by taxing the billionaires who are pushing the AI and the data centers and giving their resources into the schools when really the taxes is what we need to make sure our teachers are better funded and our students are getting what they need.
So artificial intelligence, it is a transformational new technology, and it does come with challenges. But we have been through periods like this before. I suspect most of you, all of you, came today by car, not by horse-drawn carriage. I suspect you received your invitation to this through email or the internet, not snail mail. We've been through periods like this throughout our history. We need to learn from that history. So we know people are going to lose their job from this technology, so we need to invest in skills retraining programs that retrain these folks into jobs that are in demand. Things like being plumbers or electricians or welders or nurses or teachers. I'm a big fan of vocational training and trade school programs. In addition to that, we need to make sure that we've got the social safety net programs in place to tide these folks over during that period of retraining. And finally, we need to make sure that we've got, at the federal level, AI protections in place to protect our privacy, protect our data security, and protect us and make sure that the AI companies are held responsible and liable and accountable when they cause harms to us. You know, when their AI programs encourage somebody to commit suicide or commit a mass shooting. So thank you.
So when we talk about AI, yes, there is a lot of potential. We can help doctors diagnose diseases quicker. We can make some more efficiency, sure. But big tech and any type of tech should always be there to improve people's lives, not to exploit it and not to make it worse. When we talk about AI, we have to talk about national security. We have to talk about employment. We have to talk about education. Recognize that these are all incredibly intertwined. But we'll focus on job security for this and recognize that our job in Congress is to set guardrails to protect people, not to protect profits. We are seeing overwhelming layoffs due to AI. There are huge corporations that are using AI software on their employees' laptops, studying it for 6 months, and then laying off tens and thousands at a time. So in Congress, my approach to this is a carrot and a stick model. We reward companies that don't go this route. The majority of companies who start implementing AI too, they drop it pretty quickly. We're seeing that across universities, we're seeing it in use, and we're seeing it in companies because consumers are pretty upset about it too. No one wants to talk to an AI chatbot. We actually want your problem solved. And we also tax the heck out of those who are laying off employees, replacing them with AI, and use that money to invest in job training. The thing is, AI is not going to put out a fire when your house is burning down.
$87,000. That is the number of jobs that have been lost to AI this year alone. And that number is only going to go up the more that we have AI introduced in the workforce. And so we need a way to put in place minimum standards, a comprehensive framework that can be applied everywhere so that we are putting workers, putting people at the center of the discussion and not the corporations that are employing, exploiting, and then getting rid of their jobs for AI. There is a piece of draft legislation, it's not ready yet, but it is a bipartisan piece of legislation called the Great American AI Act. And this legislation would create a nationwide comprehensive framework about workplace AI usage to hopefully prevent the further loss of jobs for people in these industries. Now, this is not the finish line. This piece of legislation is a starting point. This can get us to where we need to go. This already has bipartisan support, and we can continue to improve upon it, make it better, and truly put people first.
So I've spent my entire life in technology, from watching my mother programming the Jet Propulsion Lab on the Voyager 2 probe, to going to Orlando, to back when I was Kennedy, to now, you know, I'm a teacher and I teach at American and we teach government, but we talk about AI and its role, and both how they are happy to use it, but also how they are nervous about what it's going to do in the future. And we've seen new technologies in our country before. They have come. And we've had concerns about them before. Once upon a time, the automatic terminal machine, or automatic teller machine, an ATM, was thought it was going to just decimate the banking industry. Not quite, they're doing just fine. But what we need to ensure, and we need to make sure that Congress does, is that if AI is going to be used, if workers are going to be displaced, that it is those companies who are profiting off of this who are paying the bill. Not the worker, not the taxpayer. They are going to be raking in billions of dollars, and there can be a new addition to the safety net that covers for a AI loss, an AI displaced worker who needs to be either retrained, who needs the support to find a new job. They have the profits, they don't want to spend them, and that's where Congress comes in and says, this is going to be the requirement. You're making a lot of money. We need to protect our economy for the long run. And it's up to working families that are going to be the backbone of this country. And that's who we should be protecting.
Take advantage of it while it's still working. AI is really scary, right? I mean, here in public safety, I've seen the benefits of AI and we've been using with public safety and solving crimes. I've also seen the horrible impact on our youth and our young people taking their lives. And right now, this is an issue that Congress should have been working on, but it's not working on because, once again, politicians like Rob Whitman has stocks invested in these companies. So why aren't they doing their job? They're not doing their job because they're worried about the bottom line and the lack of money that's going to go into their pocket if they put regulations that are going to make companies spend more money to protect you. That's what needs to happen. I can tell you, as your congressional representative, I'm going to make sure that when we do come up with those regulations, we're going to be able to work with our labor force and also make sure that the jobs are protected. And we're also going to make sure that our communities, our young people, are being protected. That's why I'm proud to have the endorsement of 8 labor organizations, because they know that I've got their back. And again, for all of the work that I've done in public safety, I hope that my work in protecting our young people is also that assurance that you know that I'll go to DC and I'll make sure that the right regulations are put into place.
Keep working, keep working.
No? Oh, there it is. Okay, good. So if we had a crystal ball in the 80s and the 90s when we made a lot of trade agreements, but we knew by doing that we would eliminate hundreds of thousands of factory jobs, specifically rural areas, specifically vulnerable areas, non-white areas. Would we do it? Would we do it? I don't think we would. This is the same thing right now with going on with artificial intelligence. Even though that's just a marketing term, it's not really artificial intelligence. This is the thing where I'm going to break with a few of my candidates. It's not as impressive as they're telling you that it is. It is not as worth the hype. In fact, MIT did a study 6 months ago that said 95% of businesses that invested in AI saw no return in investment. It's actually a large language model. 80% of what is in ChatGPT right now, or I guess the newest models, is Reddit. It's Reddit. I'm not kidding. This is the thing. This is inflated hype of some techno revolution that big tech is trying to offer us, and it's complete BS. Ford just had to lay off 355 workers that were software engineers, and then they said, we don't want you, we need Claude, another one. They plugged in all the plans for all of their engineering. Turns out, what Claude put out, it sucked. They had to hire those people back. But that's not going to stop them. That's not going to stop them from laying off workers. Not because it's a better tool, but because they can save money. And that's what this really comes down to. It's the greed of those companies that is looking for an excuse to pay people less or not pay people at all so they can do their shit, so they can do it right by their shareholders. That's the economy we live in. That's what we need to change, because we don't have an economy revolved around workers. We have it around Wall Street and shareholders. And unless we're doing something to change that, we're going to continue to see a bunch of grifts from big tech and other industries.
Even mine went out. Our fifth question will start with Melto, will be the first to answer. According to the Varieties of Democracy Institute, the United States lost its ranking as a liberal democracy in 2025, dropping from 20th in the world to 51st. Researchers describe this decline as unprecedented and explain that it reflects the Trump administration's disregard for checks and balances, the politicization of oversight bodies, attacks on civil liberties, the weakening of rule of law, and efforts to undermine voting rights. What role does Congress have in addressing these threats? And what would you do as a member of Congress to oppose the attacks on democracy?
So the right to vote, our civil liberties, the rule of law, those are the foundations of our democracy. If we lose those, we will lose our democracy, we will lose our country. That's how serious this moment is. So the first priority is defeating Rob Whitman. If we don't defeat Rob Whitman in November, none of the other issues we're talking about today are going to matter. So we need to defeat him, take back control of Congress, and start fighting back against this administration and their unlawful and unconstitutional actions. Some specific things I would do is oppose the SAVE Act. The SAVE Act is designed intentionally to prevent a lot of people from registering to vote. A lot of women, minorities, lower income folks. I would support the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. That would restore the original Voting Rights Act that was recently gutted by the Supreme Court and prohibit a lot of racial discrimination in our voting rules. I would protect early voting, mail-in voting, things like that that are under attack by this administration. And finally, I would pass a law. We're all familiar with this issue now, that would ban partisan gerrymandering nationwide. We need a nationwide ban so that no states can do this. With partisan gerrymandering, the parties are selecting our representatives, not you all the people. Those representatives become beholden to the party leadership and not the voters. Thanks.
A few months ago, I had the pleasure of having a presentation done by a wonderful moderator on this topic. If you ever have the opportunity, I suggest you do. I then had the horror of having to speak after her, though, which I would not wish on anybody because she did a phenomenal job. Here's the thing. I took an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America when I was 17. I took that again when I was 21 years old and commissioned as an armor officer. That oath did not end just because I left the military and I took the uniform off. That's why the number one pillar of my platform is accountability. But here's the thing, the president's one man. The question that we all should be asking ourselves is not whether we trust the president. We know the answer. It's whether we trust that our government can withstand any president. And that is what we have truly lost right now. So we get to Congress, we have to remind Congress of the power that we have, and that comes from accountability. Yes, if you violated your oath to the Constitution, we're gonna take care of that. But how do we rebuild what we're left with? That's why we have to have an ethics reform. We have to overturn Citizens United, ban congressional stock trading, remember your oath. Whitman is an election denier, so we're gonna talk about the downfall of our democracy. Start right there. The John Lewis Voting Rights Act, we have to oppose the SAVE Act, and we have to have reform on the Supreme Court, actually have separation of powers, have the balance that we need for democracy to thrive, protect early voting, protect mail-in voting. No one should ever feel like their vote is being disenfranchised. That is the greatest power we all have. We all have a superpower. One person gets one vote. Thank you.
Donald Trump is a symptom of a much greater problem in this country. And that problem is that we have politicians, people that are so-called justices, that are power hungry and greed driven. And we need to address each and every one of them if we're going to have a functional democracy. So what does that look like? That looks like impeaching every member of the cabinet and the president and or vice president themselves for their violations of federal law and the Constitution. I will personally bring those articles of impeachment against Donald Trump on day one in office. And although I'm just one person standing here talking about impeachment, I am not alone in that at all. I am endorsed by an organization called Citizens Impeachment. We are over 120 candidates strong from over 38 states across the country. And together we will work in Congress to get impeachment to the Senate. In addition to that, we're gonna get an ethics code, an enforceable ethics code placed upon the Supreme Court so that there can actually be a check and a balance on these so-called justices. Because although that may be their title, we do not have justice. And once we do that, then we can move forward with the policies that we need to put in place to protect our right to vote, like the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. The Supreme Court won't give it to us.
So every veteran knows that oath. I have taken it and administered it more than a dozen times in my career. And it is something that you take in your heart, you take in your soul, it becomes a part of you. That oath, the oath to the Constitution, not to any king. On January 6th, that day affected my family personally. My wife and my oldest daughter are here today. On that day, my wife she worked for a member of Congress, and we had to rescue our daughter from the daycare on the House of Representatives daycare. Literally had to rescue our daughter. And Rob Whitman, shortly thereafter, wanted to deny the lawful votes that were being cast. And that's simply unacceptable. It's unacceptable for anyone who swears an oath to the Constitution to give that oath up for their own personal power. It's unacceptable whether you are, as Erica talks about, a Supreme Court justice, a member of Congress, the Senate, or a president. The oath is sacrosanct. So we need to recognize that we thought that there were guardrails and they were nothing more than those flippy plastic HOV barriers that you could just run right over. We need to, as Congress, take that power back. Power is very easy to give away. It is difficult to recover, but that is what we need to do. We need to stand united with the party and take that power back so that this can never happen, because Donald Trump is not the problem. The problem is we put too much faith in a system and thought it would just hold up without any help.
As one of the many attorneys up here, I've been practicing for 30 years, and the rule of law has always been my beacon in my profession, and always will be. And right now, with our system that's supposed to be based on checks and balances, we have no checks and balances. And how we got here, it didn't just happen overnight. It's something that's been building up, not just during this administration, but other previous administrations. And honestly, both parties are responsible for it. Because right now, the reason why this corrupt system exists and why politicians like Rob Whitman have been able to stay and self-enrich himself at the cost of us is because we have a system that has allowed it to happen. So really, the number one thing that we can do to bring back democracy to our country is to get rid of all of the corruptness there. That's what we have to do. And that is going to be a fight. It means making sure that we can go towards that light like I've done when I've been fighting for you, when I've been fighting for our democracy, whether it's against one of those white nationalists at the University of Virginia in 2017 or the Klansmen in our own county in 2020. I've been fighting for you my entire career, and especially as the last 15 years as your top prosecutor. That's the fight that I want to bring to DC. That's the fight that I want to do to clean up this democracy.
If Donald Trump was able to do this much harm in this short amount of time, it kind of shows that our norms, our institutions, they were standing on a house of cards in the first place. That's our politics. That's our society. That's our political culture. We got here because we let dignity go and we let greed come in. That's it. The opposite of dignity is greed. And that's the system that we have right now, the political system that allows Rob Whitman to take away health insurance for $25,000 of his own constituents and save $60,000 on his own beach house with that same tax bill. It's a system where healthcare companies can spend $1 billion in lobbying in 1 year, take $1 trillion of our tax subsidies, and turn around and just raise our prices every year anyway. That's what we have. That's the deal. And everyone just gave a lot of great solutions. I just want there, as a party, to make sure that there's consequences for these actions. That means that we show up and we fight back and we make sure that if you cross the line of justice, you cross the line of greed, we will be there to stop you, which is one of the reasons why I think the biggest threat to our rights right now, yes, it's Donald Trump, but it's also the Supreme Court. I want to impeach 2 of those people for taking bribes. I do. They voted on the vote, they've gutted the Voting Rights Act, they've allowed corporations to come in and have no rules whatsoever. They've enriched themselves too. Even if the Senate is not going to follow through on it, I still want them to know that we're the party that says, if you cross this line, we're gonna be there to fight back. And I want the public, whether the rural areas, to see the Democrats being the party that fights for people. That's how we have long-term success, but more importantly, that's how we have a, card went away, so I'll stop right now.
So after the Constitutional Convention, Elizabeth Powell asks Benjamin Franklin, well, doctor, what have we got? A republic or a monarchy? What did Benjamin Franklin say? A republic if you can keep it. You guys are good, all right. A republic if you can keep it. Have we kept it? No. Now, Congress's job is to provide a check on the president. Has Congress provided that check? No, not at all. And so rather than being a government of the people, we have become a government, thanks to Citizens United, of the corporations. And so due to the Electoral College and things like the Senate filibuster, popular and majority votes don't matter. And so do we have a democracy? No. No, so what we need to be crystal clear on is that the erosion of our democracy has not just been limited to the Trump administration, not to the second one or to the first one, but it has been happening for decades. And Chief Justice Roberts has made it his life's goal for some reason to gut the Voting Rights Act. And he got it in 2013 with Shelby County, 2021 with Brnovich, and then this year, 2026 with Louisiana. The nail in the coffin, it's done, which is why I support things like the John Lewis Voting Rights Act and banning partisan gerrymandering, which the House Democrats were able to pass back in 2021. So these are some issues that are top of mind for me. We also need to support statehood for DC and Puerto Rico. We need to protect against a gerontocracy by having term limits for both the Supreme Court and for Congress. We need to repeal the authorization of military force, which has given the war power of Congress to the president. And we also need to retake the power of the tariff. That's what the checks and balances are for.
you. We are now to the moment of closing statements, and Elizabeth Dempsey Beggs will be the first to deliver that. We'd like to invite the candidates to make a 1.5-minute statement, thinking about these issues. Many voters in the 1st District have grown tired of Rob Whitman's unwillingness to answer questions, meet with constituents, and address our concerns. We are no longer surprised when he fakes a telephone call to dodge a reporter or fails to stand up for our interests. Please use this closing statement to tell us about yourself, why you believe you can defeat Rob Whitman, and what you will do to improve accountability in the 1st District.
Sorry guys, I think my phone's ringing. Spent a lot of time reflecting recently on the phrase vis pacem para bellium. You wish for peace, prepare for war. Now I want peace for my kids. I want peace for your kids. I want peace for all of us. And this is a war that we are now all in, but we did not choose to. Well, everyone at this table did choose to. But I respect the hell out of everybody else in this room for choosing to be a part of this and for fighting for our future. One that hopefully can be peaceful, because peace does not come from the bottom of a bomb hitting a school overseas. Peace is having financial security. Peace is knowing that your parents can retire with health care. Peace is knowing that your kids can go to school without getting shot, and that is exactly the future I imagine, but that only happens if we can actually defeat Whitman. And what it's going to take is, I have the experience of being one of the first women to command tanks in the military, one of the first 50 after Congress lifted the ban. That gave me the ability of leading under opposition, standing in front of a room of people who really don't want you there. You know, imagine a 21-year-old version of me in front of a couple hundred men who have never served with women before. Didn't really go over well, and that experience is exactly what it is going to take to flip this seat. Because while they may have been doubtful, while they may have not wanted me there, we got the job done, and we moved the unit forward, just like we're going to move the country forward. I'm also someone who's finishing up an MBA, and I really like numbers. You know what? In polling, 43% of people believe that I was the best candidate to take the seat from Whitman. And that means a lot when there are incredible candidates on the stage who all will do incredible work. Thank you.
Jenny mentioned at the start of this lovely event that I'm a near lifelong Henrico County resident, and that's true. I went to J.R. Tucker High School, so it's a little bit odd for me being inside of Freeman on the stage right now. But nonetheless, the people of this community and some of the people in this very room raised me. This is my village. I consider you all to be my extended family, and I fight like hell for my family. And I will do that for you in Congress. Beyond fighting to get rid of corruption and dark money in politics, I will work for universal health care and universal education from pre-K through post-secondary and trade school, so that everyone, regardless of where they come from or what their socioeconomic status is, everyone has the same opportunity to get the education that they need to get ahead in this world. This is so much more than a campaign, though. This is truly a calling to serve this community. My campaign has donated 180 pounds of food to feed more in Central Virginia. I have pledged to donate $2,000 of my monthly congressional salary right back into the district to nonprofits, so that in the meantime, while Congress is catching up, we can have some money flowing right back into the district. Not only that, but if we want young people to participate in our democracy, we need someone with big, bold ideas, a progressive candidate that is going to be able to energize and activate young people and everyone. Thank you.
So we all have a lot of similar ideas. One of the things I'd like you to do is, after this, I want you to take a look at our website, and I want you to look at the priorities that we've put forward, because I firmly believe that if you're going to run for something, you need to stand for something. And we are putting forward actual plans, actual rules, actual work into what those are. And so rather than take another 90 seconds to tell you about it, take a look and you'll see what work we're talking about. In terms of defeating Rob Whitman, listen, we've been watching this district for a decade and we haven't won it yet. It doesn't matter who comes out. It doesn't matter who the surrogates are. It doesn't matter. It only matters who the candidate is. This city, this county elects the nominee. But let's be clear, where I live is who votes for the member. And right now, we have not done it once. Abigail Spanberger won this district by 2.7 points, and on that same ballot, Hashmi and Jones lost by 5 points and 8 points. That's not because Democrats split ticket voted, it's because Republicans did. If you want to win this seat, you need somebody who is going to be able to walk into a room and be able to convince a middle of the road, independent or slightly right of center. That's the only way this seat flips. Don't kid yourself. This is the requirement. I walk into those rooms all the time because as a Navy veteran, 70% of my coworkers were Republicans. Shocking. It's easy to talk to them. Sometimes you get into fights, but sometimes you find a solution. And that's what we need to bring. That's what they're waiting for. They're sick of Rob Whitman, but they want a better solution, and I'm going to be it.
You know, it's been my greatest privilege to be your Commonwealth's attorney for the last 15 years. And certainly public service has been running through my veins for those 30 years, and that's what's driving me to want to serve more. And certainly what I've been able to do with leadership in bringing new policies to Henrico County to make sure that we are holding people accountable. The violent criminals, the fraudsters who are going after our seniors, and those predators who want to get our children. We hold them accountable, but I've also been proud of the other policies we've done to help our veterans, to help those people with substance use disorder and those who are suffering from behavioral health diagnoses. And Jason's right, it is going to take the right candidate to take on and defeat Rob Whitman. That's why I'm also proud that I have earned the trust of Henrico County 3 more times with 3 elections, and I do that winning the entire county in 2019 and 2023 with independents and with Republicans, because they've seen my leadership style and they know that I've earned that trust and accountability. That same fight that I do for you all every day here in Henrico County is going to be the same fight that I'm going to take for you when I go to DC. The idea of what I've been able to earn that trust. When I say that I'm going to do it for you, you know that I have that track record. We can do this. We can and will beat Rob Whitman in November. We can do it together.
Thanks again for having us. Appreciate you all for listening to us. A couple housekeeping items really quickly. I know we're worried about data centers. Just so you know, Eastern Henrico is looking down the barrel of 12 new data centers by QTS. Also, just so you know, Matthews County, 20% of the households there don't have running water. 30% of households don't have internet. I spoke to a guy from Gloucester just a few days ago who's a waterman, commercial waterman, been there for his entire family's generation as far back as they can go. And every day, everything's getting more expensive, and it's becoming more dangerous for him because of the giant omega protein fishing ships that's a Canadian company that comes in and destroys their livelihoods. You know, Rob Whitman's daughter is on the E-suite of that company, or up high up in that company. When I talk to people, I try to make it very local. I think my website has some of the most expensive, it's all cheap actually, but extensive plans that are specific to the people of this district. I want to make sure that I talk with people, because just like in community organizing, the only reason people ever trust me, and a lot of them, by the way, are MAGA folks or people who vote right, is because I'm willing to see them and tell them I know something is happening to you that's not fair, and I know your leaders aren't listening to you, but that does not mean that your voice doesn't matter. And that doesn't mean that your voice can't make a difference. If we're going to win this election, it's going to be on the margins. It's going to be a really strong turnout for places like this and in Chesterfield, but it's also going to be people in those areas that have been forgot about, yes, by the party as well, and making sure that they feel empowered because they are the experts of their own community. Which is why I commit, if I become the nominee, this is one of the most livable districts. I want to split 50% of all my donations go to those rural areas, go to those local committees, because I don't think you all are looking at the solution to beat Rob Whitman. I think I am. It's going to happen with you.
You've heard 2 sides tonight: progressive visions to drive voter turnout and centrism in order to win over Republicans. Well, we should make no mistake, yesterday's centrism led to today's fascism. We cannot afford to settle, especially in this time of our nation's history. Now, when someone doesn't show up at town halls, is funded by corporate PACs and their executives and pass-throughs, is funded by the pro-Israel lobby and ignores a genocide, and can't protect our children, that person cannot represent the interests of the American people. And that's why it's more important than ever to vote for the right type of candidate in this primary. I am that candidate, and that's because I show up to forums to be held accountable. I don't take money from corporate PACs or their pass-throughs because my allegiance to the people is not based on a campaign check. I can call out the genocide in Gaza, meaning I am held accountable to America, not to Israel. There are candidates in this race who talk about fighting for working families. I've actually done it. Tens of thousands of our neighbors across the Commonwealth have food on the table right now because of the work that we did. Tens of thousands of our children across the Commonwealth can focus on what the teacher is saying and not focus on the hunger in their bellies because they had their school lunch because of the work that we did. And this is the type of energy that's taking us into Congress to fight for Medicare for all, to tax these billionaires, and to get big money out of our politics. Now listen, this is the type of vision that is winning over teachers in Tuckahoe, parents in Short Pump, and high schoolers in Hanover. And this is why we have nearly 400 volunteers across the district. And I'm waiting for you to join us on this journey to flip this district. So check us out in the back, and I look forward to talking with you. My name is Salam Budji. I love your vote.
Yes, so we all know that Rob Whitman will not listen to his constituents. He won't show up at town halls and meet with us in person. He will not stand up to this administration or his party because he's worried that he will be primary. So it is time for Rob to go. It's time for the Democrats to take back control of Congress. It's time for all of us to fight back against the chaos and the corruption that's going on in Washington. But you all know what the challenge is here. You've heard it from some of the others. Once you get outside of Henrico County, the rest of this district is very rural and very conservative. That's why, and Rob Whitman, he has won every one of his races for 18 years now by 10 percentage points against some good quality Democratic candidates. So if we're going to win in this district, we need a nominee like me, who's an Army veteran, a small business owner, who's had 30 years of experience in the real world, in law and business and nonprofit leadership, who takes a very pragmatic approach to working with everybody. I believe in working with people who don't always agree with us to build relationships, understand different perspectives, find common ground, and get stuff done. That's what it's going to be. That's what it's going to take to win over the independents and the moderates, in addition to all the Democrats. And we're going to need every one of their votes to beat Rob Whitman, because if we don't beat him, none of the other issues we've talked about are going to matter. I'm Mill Tall. I really appreciate having the opportunity to earn your trust and earn your support. Thank you.
So we have now reached the end of our candidate forum. And I'm sure there were questions or issues that we were unable to cover today with 7 amazing candidates. We wanted to respect the time of our audience, but we encourage you all to reach out to the candidates, check out their websites, and get to know them. I want to take a moment to thank these candidates for being here today, for engaging with the questions. And for showing up for our community and being willing to serve and represent the voices of the 1st District. I also want to thank the staff of Freeman High School for hosting us today, the Henrico Democrats for hosting this event, the volunteers who dedicated time to make the forum a success, and to all of you for coming out on a Sunday to learn about these candidates and cast an informed vote in the August 4th primary or earlier if you decide to early vote. The Henrico Democrats have asked that I share a message with you about their federal PAC. You all received a flyer, I think, when you came in. There's a QR code on the back. recognizing that CD1 is a must-win congressional seat and that Henrico makes up the largest portion of the district, the Henrico Democrats have established a PAC. This enables the local party committee to deploy resources to win the seat. The PAC structure gives the Henrico Democrats the ability to raise and spend funds for federal election activities that would otherwise be unavailable to the committee. Over the summer, federal PAC funds will be used to let voters know why Whitman is wrong for the 1st Congressional District. After the August primary, Henrico Dems will continue to use the federal PAC to support Democratic candidates in future election cycles. If you wish to donate, you can find the link through that QR code. In closing, I want to thank everyone again for being here today, for your engagement. I hope to see you all on the campaign trail so that we can flip the 1st district and defeat Rob Whitman. Thank you.
Was the question on there?
No, it's a live stream.
Oh, I live stream.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.